about the power of mentorship and sponsorship.
Just having a good mentor can really make a big difference in a person's career trajectory. Women with sponsors are 27% more likely to be promoted to executive roles in tech firms.
Guide you, push you, help you see things that you might miss on your own.
Hello, and welcome back to UnlockHerTech, the safe space podcast for women in the tech industry. I am one of your hosts, Jen Carswell, and I'm here with Ellie, our resident tech expert. Ellie, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Jen. I'm so excited for today's episode about the power of mentorship and sponsorship.
Me too. Later in the podcast, we will be speaking to Irina Kamalova and Rajani Rao, both leaders in the tech industry, to talk more about the power of mentorship and sponsorship, as Ellie has just mentioned. And looking at the data, which we'll get to in a minute, but just having a good mentor can really make a big difference in a person's career trajectory. So give us a sense of what your experience has been like.
Sure, I think having mentors is a must if you want to grow in any skill you want to grow. They gonna guide you, push you, help you see things that you might miss on your own. I wouldn't be where I am today without the mentors who guided me from my bootcamp days to my current job at the moment. They helped me face my challenges, think differently, and stay more resilient. Their patience and support led me to grow at my own pace.
That is all very encouraging, and I'm sure we'll get more into that later on. Now, having a little bit of a read around, and just to give you guys a bit of an idea of the ways that mentorship can have an impact, here are some of the ones that our team has picked out. So 1, providing career guidance, goal setting and support. 2, expanding professional network. 3, acting as role models. 4, creating inclusive environments, so important. 5, encouraging leadership aspirations. So Ellie, are there any of those that particularly stand out for you?
Yeah, I would say definitely career guidance and support stand out the most to me. My mentors helped me set goals and stay focused and navigate challenges with confidence. They were also great role models who inspired me to aim higher and my own leadership skills.
Now, I have to admit that I hadn't really come across sponsorship in this context in terms of visa permits, that kind of thing. So sponsorship as somebody who uses their influence to champion a mentee or a colleague was actually, for me, something that this sort of brought up as a possibility. So how important is this in the tech industry? And do you think it's something that is very, very tech-centric?
Yeah, in my opinion, there are different kinds of sponsorship. Some people sponsor you by supporting your visa, some by funding communities or nonprofits, and others by advocating for you in your career. In the tech industry, I think the last one I mentioned and what you mentioned is what really matters. Having someone who speaks up for you and helps you get noticed, and they can make a big difference. Mentors or colleagues who believe in you can naturally become your sponsors by advocating for you and opening opportunities for you.
And one stat that I found pretty staggering in the research is that women with sponsors are 27% more likely to be promoted to executive roles in tech firms. That's research from McKinsey. I mean, that's just over a quarter of women. So obviously it makes a huge difference.
It does. Based on our previous episode, we discussed about different things, and also how research shows tech is still a male dominated industry. So women need sponsors to help them stay strong and overcome their challenges. I also think it's important to mention that the sponsorship builds confidence, opens doors to opportunities, and also helps create a more inclusive industry.
Now we're going to get into the interview with our experts. Unfortunately, I was not feeling well the day of recording, so Ellie very gallantly took the reins. So she has done the interview. So I'll be around for the end and the wrap up and the goodbye. But in the meantime, we were so delighted to welcome Irina Kamalova and Rajani Rao, both leaders in the tech industry. Irina, currently VP lead software engineer at JP Morgan Chase, and Rajani, principal technologist at Aviva. So I will now let Ellie, take it away with the first question.
Now it's time to welcome our experts. We are so delighted to have Irina Kamalova and Rajani Rao with us today. It's fair to say that you both are leaders in the tech industry. Irina, you are recently a VP lead software engineer at JP Morgan. Tell us a little bit about you and your experience.
Thank you so much for inviting me in this amazing opportunity to have this conversation today. Yeah, if I share a little bit about myself, I started in tech industry around 10 years ago. I started as software engineer at the first ever role. It was a big bank, and I changed several times and many jobs. Before I joined JP Morgan Chase, I also worked 3 years for Revolut. I would say it wasn't an easy journey at all, but at the end of the day, I feel like we're going to good direction for women in tech industry. And 4 years ago, I was part of a big community. We were building mentorship programs. We were building a lot of programs. And only 1 year ago, we started our own community in London, which is called Women Coding Community. So today, I'm really proud to be also co-founder and director of Women Coding Community. So that's about my journey.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad to have you today with us. And Rajani, you are a principal technologist at Aviva, but also an advocate for women in tech. Tell us a little bit about you and your leadership journey.
Again, thank you for having me here, and hello to all the listeners. And hopefully this session that myself, Irina, are recording with you, Ellie, you find it useful as well. As for myself, I have over 2 decades of experience in tech. I started coding as a child, so technology was in my DNA. There's nothing I could think differently. And regarding the very specificity of my journey into leadership, I think I want to mention like several key experiences that shaped how I am today in terms of leadership. So say, for example, when I was an engineer, I would contribute to things, and I got promoted as a principal engineer where I was leading programs. And I know that it's not the same. I was very good when I was a junior engineer, very good at solving technical problems, but I was also bottlenecking my team because I was trying to handle everything myself, as we all do. And the Leaders Who Coach program was pivotal, where it actually helped me like switch to becoming more good at active listening. I'm still learning. As leaders, you never stop. You're always learning every day. And then use that active listening to ask the right questions, which is a lot more powerful than having all the answers, right? Because we think we need to know all the answers. I also love to create psychological safety in the team wherever I go. In terms of leadership, that's very, very important for me. I think the pivotal moment was also becoming a mother, because as soon as I became a mother, it was like probably the most profound leadership lesson I've ever had, right? Suddenly, I've had to trust others with work I previously controlled completely, solutionized, and gave all the answers. And then this constraint actually forced me to also be strategic about where I spend my energy, and taught me how effective delegation is not just handing of tasks, it's also empowering others to grow and help them scale so you can scale as well, and so the organizations can scale. So I think the kids, when you look at them, when you watch them fail, like they make mistakes and they keep learning, you look at it and it puts a perspective shift in your life as well. Like here I am, like fussing about failures and mistakes, whereas it's actually an opportunity for us to learn and grow. And that's when the mentality shifted towards experimentation, because that's what kids do best, right? So there's a lot we can learn from them in terms of leadership as well. So for me, having that opportunity for my team to make mistakes but learn from them, of course, and also like experiment and figure out, looking of seeing failure as a closure or a setback, you treat it as a learning opportunity, and you look at what's worked, what didn't work, how can you build something more resilient, how can you learn from this, so on and so forth. And you would like test some experiments, learn from it, and then go and proceed. Also, I founded women coding community. It was also similar to Irina, director of Women Who Code, which shut down for funding reasons, and we decided, because we had a huge community, the community wanted us to carry on, we started that. Along with that, I've always had this business side of things as well, like moving the needle, like where whatever you're contributing, like as engineers, I'd love to solve problems. But sometimes if the problem I'm solving is not moving the needle, I need to know that it's moving the needle and it's growing the team and it's growing the business and whatever that means. So the entrepreneur mindset and that I have founding my own companies and being part of a women coding community has actually helped. I also do fractional CTO roles and I sit on advisory boards. So having that big picture in terms of leadership is also quite important. So I have a very diverse, varied perspective about things. It's not like very domain, very silo solution, and also letting everyone thrive and as you are. And I think one thing I've also realized through this journey is you don't have to know all the answers. You just need to ask the right questions, in my view. So that's my journey into leadership. I know it's a little longer, but I have decades of experience in this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rajani. I love what you said about the active listener. I think a good leader is a very good listener, and I love that. And about the motherhood, I think women leaders can be a very good leaders in leadership roles, which we are going to talk about later on. So in this section, we want to discuss the research-based facts and figures to get your take. So we will do that first, and then afterwards, we will talk about the women coding community, which you both are founders of. So my first question is like, how have mentorship and sponsorship impacted your own career growth?
I can start with it. So it was, as I said, 4 or even 5 years ago, I'm not sure now. Then we started first ever mentorship program under brand of Women in London as a London branch. And we've started with many shifts like how to do this actually effectively. However, the most important thing that we found, it's never too early to become a mentor. And many leaders in industry who joined us to help to build this program started to be mentors straightforward. And we all grew up a lot through this mentorship program by being mentors, by finding out that we actually have enough experience to help other women to thrive and to see how they get pay raise, how they get promoted, how they decided to retain in company and grew up in a much bigger position and started to see the whole picture by having a lot of minimum conversations with their mentors. That's all was open eye experience, like, wow, we actually can change a lot here. And it's of course all about setting the right goals and to see what exactly is needed for career and to see how to translate your needs to managers, because that's very often when mentees come in and they want to get the promotion, but they didn't speak about it with their managers. They decided first to ask mentor if it's okay. And it's very important to see how many things you can shift by bringing your experience, your perspective, how much you can help even just by having mock interviews with our community members, with mentees, and helping them to close gaps if they have some gaps in skills, but also help them to see how many things they already learned from their positions. Because in software engineer, many women come in and think, oh, I don't have STEM degree. That means that I'm total imposter here. I don't know how to solve tasks, how actually they hired me. It's already 3 years. I still don't know how to solve them. But the truth that it's separate skill. It's not like you gain it automatically while you're working as a software engineer. It's skills for interviews. So that's many things that's like blind spots for many women when they come in, especially if they didn't have a background, but they were brave enough to switch to STEM, learn everything by themselves, to get so many courses, and they enter and they still have this imposter syndrome, like, oh, I didn't have education, that's I falling down compared to my colleagues. It's very important to get them and say them, no, it's not the case. As soon as you already gain the job, as soon as you're already there, you already have enough skills to grow up, to thrive. Yeah, so that's we've learned from this mentorship program as well.
Thank you. Rajani, do you have anything to add on the top of that?
Yeah, I think I like what Irina has mentioned. The only thing I'd like to mention here is so in terms of, like I mentioned, I think one of the greatest things for me when I've had a mentor was to look at my own blind spots, is to recognize. So we don't often see ourselves in that picture. I may have a lot of certifications and a lot of achievements and a lot of awards and a lot of achievement behind me. but I will still be there thinking I am not good enough. So bringing a third person's perspective and getting that perspective shift to say, oh my God, I'm awesome because I've done this and this, and despite this, I've done this, is like the biggest, I think, win as a mentor. So if the mentor is able to do that to the mentee, I think it's great, because everybody has in their life have done stuff, achieved stuff. So it's actually because we all have, as humans, right, negativity bias. One small thing, then we focus on all the great things, all the 9 great things we did, we forget about it. So it's shifting the perspective in that sense with respect to mentoring. And I have mentors who have actually shifted that perspective and made me believe in who I am. So I naturally, I'm a trained coach as well. So I bring my training in the coaching, because I know truly everyone knows their answers, right? It's about just digging deeper to get there, right? They know the answer. So for me, it's about putting it back to them in a way they don't even realize that they are finding their own solution. And that for me is like the biggest win. And before I actually do that, I do a very holistic approach because of women and the societal implications. I'm an Asian, and we all come from different cultures. And the culture, sometimes the upbringing literally gets us to think small. And we all have this piled on self-limiting belief from culture, from society, so on and so forth. So for me, it's about looking at that self-limiting belief. What is stopping them from being their best version of themselves? And when you start looking at that, then they are able to dream big. They're able to move big, and they're going to stop being the hurdle themselves. So they are no longer going to be the obstacle. They are going to go and contribute, and they can be whoever they want to be, right? And this is where I move the needle for them by asking the questions to help them find the evidence of how awesome they are, and their achievements, and actually like take them away from the negativity bias. I use some CBT techniques as well in all of this coaching and neuroscience to like shift their thinking. And then once they've shifted their thinking and they know what their values are, what they truly want, and what sort of a vision that they want, then they can work towards it. So that's my first thing. So I start with that, and then we work on the goals, like, okay, I want to do this, so what can we do, and so on and so forth. And the best for me, I think, in terms of like the best mentees who have taken a lot out of our sessions, I coach a lot of mentees. So I think the mentees who literally take the feedback, actually work on it, and then come back for more. I mean, it's like, okay, I've done this, like, what's next? And it's amazing to see the transformation when you actually start taking actions. It doesn't need to be like moving a boulder from here to there. It could just be chipping away at it. And that, I feel like, having micro actions that will actually move you to where you want to be. And I think most often we all come with this thinking in general in life, including myself, where we think, oh, I want to become this and I want to become this overnight. But what I get them to focus is, what's that little most powerful thing that we can chip away at that'll actually get you in that direction and head. And I've had mentees who've got like a promotion in 6 months, and they have transformed themselves from someone who's like have negativity, like they think they're no good, to in like 3 weeks they have been like the best thing. Someone who has had a lot of imposter syndrome to being the loudest voice in the room and believing in their voice and their thoughts and believing in themselves. So I enjoy the journey of mentoring, but at the same time, I learn a lot from my mentees as well, right? It's both ways. And also for me, having mentors through my advisor board that I save, right? Like I go and then we chat about it. So I have a board of advisors who actually advise me as well when I take. And when shit hits the fan, I also have like the safety net, like a set of people who I can go and say, hey, this is there, and just to catch me and break the fall for me. So I think I have strategically put in the nicest possible way. I use the word strategy, but it's like having those right people around you, both mentors and support network, that will help you through this journey, both career, both life in general.
Thank you, Rajani. You kind of covered my other questions, but before we go to the next questions, I have one question from both of you with all of your experience. Which reason is the common reason for women that it held them back to become the best version of themselves? Is it imposter syndrome? Is it confidence? What is it, like, with all of your experience?
I think, like I said, I think the biggest obstacle is not external always. It's internal. It's what we say to ourselves, the self-limiting belief, and imposter syndrome. All that comes from what's the story? We humans are meaning-making machines, right? We tell stories and we love to sell stories. So what story are you telling yourself that's keeping you there? Right. So it's about shifting that narrative, shifting that story. So if there was a failure, this is why I say reframing, even the failure is a great thing, because then you're reframing your story. I mean, neuroscience has wonderful research articles. Go look it up. But one of the things I'd say is if you're nervous, like say you are a public speaker and you're standing there and you're like pretty nervous, just by telling yourself that actually I'm excited about this, because you're feeling something in your body, right? You're nervous, but you just say I'm excited about that, shifts the way you perform, right? But if you tell yourself, oh my god, I'm nervous and I'm not going to do good, then that's the end of it. So in those terms, I think shifting the narrative you say about yourself and where you are, and what great stories, what transformational stories can you say to get you from here to wherever you want to go, I think is like the answer. It's not that every individual bits, but holistically, in my view, this is the issue.
I 100% agree. What are your thoughts on that?
I would add this, reframing our stories. I would think about what such stories come into our minds, because at least in my culture, it's always about women to be at home and care about children. And it's all about how much responsibility women get on their shoulders when it's coming to build family. And I would say it's really hard to shift focus. And I would say by becoming a mother of under 1 year old today, I realized how much work indeed it takes for me to stay at home with their kids. How much more emotional work. It's even harder than actual work with people in industry. And I'm shocked how it's not diversity and inclusion when we talk and care about kids. Somehow, by default, it feels like it's always on shoulders of women. And if you can't perform in the same way, like you can't overtime, you can't stay long hours in office, etc., we starting to think like, oh, then I do not deserve promotion, I do not deserve best roles, because basically I have to sacrifice myself for also having sustainable and a very healthy relationship inside my family, right? And many great engineers, who also principals, etc., they would think in this way. They would think like, oh, I'm a breadwinner and my family built in this way. My wife staying at home with kids. And I think that's absolutely how it should work. Unfortunately, when it's coming about families, we have these role models right now. And that's why it's very important to shift these role models. It's very important to advocate for more flexible hours, more diverse practice work, like how we can navigate through these challenges, what we can do. And when I came to parenting, I realized, oh, that's actually it's two parallel worlds. They are not combined together. And I see it as a great challenge for us, for our generation, because if we fight for ourselves, if we say, like, okay, if we need to spend so much time with our kids, then we're going to bring them to work, to conferences, then we are not going to sacrifice. Yeah, that's something that I have in mind now. And I realize that was role models that I saw from childhood. I saw that I'm not going to be a breadwinner because it doesn't work like this. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life to find a role model like this. And I'm really happy that through communities we can connect with great women like Rajani, who is my role model today because she already has 2 daughters and she's principal engineer and fractional CTO. Just inspires us. It means that we can change this world.
I agree. It's very difficult to fight towards the society expectations, and that's why we are here to basically fight for our rights.
I'd like to just add to what Irina said in terms of motherhood penalty, right? So there was a time where I wanted flexible working, and when I had the child, and it's interesting that we have rights in this country to ask for flexible working when you come back to work after maternity leave. But little do we know about it. And also internally, it feels very uncomfortable to ask. But it's very easy. I've learned to actually ask, like, hey, can we shift to stand up at 9 because I have to drop my daughter off at school? And can we move the meeting? So I think organizations are really good. I have been very, very lucky in working for organizations where this is all open, so you can ask and you can negotiate with your manager for flexible working or moving meetings or why you can't be part of it and how you can change. But I think equity starts at home as well, where you look at what are the things I'm able to do all of this and thrive in a career because I have a partner who holistically parents, like literally, I wouldn't say it's not 50-50. There are times where he takes more and I take less, and there are times where I take more and he takes less. So we literally look at who is good at doing what and is efficient at what. So let's just build on that skills. So he is really great at some things and I give it to him, and I'm great at some things and I pick it up, right? So we split our tasks in a way that when it comes to parenting, that it's not all on me. If you really look at it, women are expected to like go work in their career, like do the school drop-offs and runs, like cook and everything else, right? I'm not saying that it's true in every household, but there are some households, even my friend, I was quite surprised, being very grateful for my parents who have raised me in a way that I didn't know any different. In fact, I don't even know how to cook, right? So let's start there. So I've been very grateful in that perspective that I have the opportunity where I can share my parenting with my husband, which means my kids actually grow up thinking that women are like me. And in fact, me and my husband laugh and actually make a joke that when the girls grow up, they'll be probably in for a shock thinking, oh my God, like someone's expecting me to do this, but my mom never did it, right? So I have been very consciously, when I say me and my husband have been very, very conscious of how we raise our kids. And I do everything around role modeling for my kids, right? So if I can role model for my kids, then I'm role modeling for the next generation. So my girls grow up thinking women can do whatever they want, be whoever they want, and they can dream big, like worlds, like this universe is their playground for them to dream and be whoever. So I think it's also a shift within all of us and in families. And of course, having that courage, not letting that fear of, oh my God, can I actually ask it? But actually ask it because how else are you expected to be a mom, a parent, and contribute and work? And most often, when you educate people, they like if your boss does not have kids, then it's about just a matter of educating like what's involved, and then they understand that everybody is reasonable. So I think we should talk more often about it and change and bring that culture. It is hard because I worked in an organization where I was the only woman, and I've had like kids, and I've had to set the narrative for the rest of the women who follow me. It is hard, but it's also gratifying because I always think, okay, I've gone through this. I want to make sure I'm changing it for others. And I think when we all think like that and shift like that, and we have our allies, our husbands, or whoever, our managers, our organization, our families, the entire society, and each one gets on board, we will be able to bring this transformation.
Yeah, I want to add to this that it's really important to ask our partners, husbands, wherever you are go to in parenting with, to get responsibilities with you. Because, for example, how I can get a bit more sleep right now because my husband, our daddy, he actually taught our kids that she can fall asleep with him. That's fine. And that was very important for us to get more sleep for everyone. And again, for women from my culture, it's kind of shock that something like this bedtime where you have to rock them, where you have to cuddle them, where you have to put them in bedtime, and then you actually hold this. It's something that can be managed by daddy, and it's something that's actually contributed mental health for the whole family. So we have to ask and we have to shift like how much everyone participate in family.
And also like normalize shared parental leave. Right? When people ask, oh, but what about your husband's career when he's going on a shared parental leave? Then you have to turn around and ask, but what about my career as well? Like, why is his career more important than my career, right? So if you normalize in organizations and everywhere else, like men can also take shared parental leave, which means I go back to work sooner and then he takes a thing to raise the kids. And that's also okay. And we can change the narrative. I'm very grateful for my husband who took the shared parental leave, because for the first one, I realized that I'm a person who likes I've been coding all my life. So like a year of that being taken away from me, I could feel the loss of it. I actually certified. I had to keep myself busy by doing certifications, so on and so forth, during the maternity leave to keep my mind occupied. But with the second one, we decided that my husband, well, we knew it was our loss. So my husband would take the share parental leave and I would go back to soon to enjoy the joys of what tech has to provide.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything is connected together. And as you both said, like role models and like asking your partners to basically help you about all of your tasks is going to basically change kind of in the tech industry, if you want to think about it that way. So let's get back to our questions again. So earlier we mentioned a few of the tangible benefits that mentorship can bring. It would be great if we could go through them with you and you can each give us your thoughts on why they are important in the mentor and mentee relationship. First one, the most basic one, is providing career guidance, helping with goal setting, and just generally offering support. Irina, what are your thoughts on this?
As I said, for mentees, it could be a huge shift of mindset. What exactly their goals and what exactly expected of them. Why it is important? Because it's basically the main driver for mentees and in their relationship to find the point where they want to be. And as I said, sometimes they even didn't ask their manager what expected from me to get the next role because they were too shy or they were confident enough. So they decided to find a mentor and ask mentor first what I should do for promotion. It's important to shift this mindset. You can be open to this voice, you can ask questions, and as soon as you have clear goals, you can go to the next point, right? Without clear direction, it's really hard to move next. That's why it's very important.
Thank you, Irina. So the second one is expanding professional network. This is important. Often that's how you get a foot in the door with a new company, for instance. What are your thoughts on this?
So I think with respect to networking, I think it has to be genuine. You need to know why you want this network. And I would actually say if you want to go and network with people, see what value you can add to them, right? Like, hey, so there are various levels of networking. So say, for example, you would want networking within the organization or networking. So if you can tell me, like, when you say networking, is it within the organization, networking in general? So I can give you my answers very, very pinpointed. But in general, I would say anywhere you are there, you would look at where you are, your team, and the wider level, your cross functional, your divisions, and then outside. And I feel networking we make it out to be a big thing, but it's actually very simple. You just need to be curious and wanting to know. So if you have curiosity, you are not having to like build, oh, I need to network with this person. And then it becomes very transactional. I mean, that's my approach. Make it transactional if you want. But for me, networking is about being curious. Like, I want to learn how you did this. That's curiosity. So I would reach out to you. Hey, what? I'm looking at this, or I'm in this position. How can I network? And I always keep my network very tiered. Like, I know why I'm approaching. What do I need to do? Like, sometimes I also have because I'm a board. I sit on advisory boards, and I'm a fractional CTO. So when I'm at conferences as well, it's just curiosity, asking questions, and knowing the right people and building that relationship. So it's value exchange. So it's not only like getting, but it's also giving. Like, what can you share? Your story that is useful for them. And this all starts with some icebreaker, and never hesitate, because at the end of it, like, we all humans, we all like built to communicate, and you just use it and be authentic. Just be you. Don't have to always go in with an agenda. Oh, so you are here and this is why I need. Just go out of curiosity. You need help. What value can you go? And sometimes networking is the other way around. So I help female founders out of my time, and if they want an MVP done, and I know they're in desperate need because someone's left them high and dry, I actually go and pitch in and give my time. Of course, I won't continue and do everything, but when they are in that dire need, I actually go and help them. So this is how you form networks and connections, helping them. Because at the end of it, I think we're all humans and we shouldn't forget that. So I would see networking as a way of like, hey, how are you? And going and reaching out, be the CEO of another organization, be it the CTO of another organization or your own organization. I speak to everyone in my organization and other organizations in a very like if it's a conversation with CEOs, it's about their challenge or what is the challenge. I might just go and speak to a business owner and say, hey, what's going on? And they would actually talk about, say, licensing. And then I bring them value about, hey, actually, have you thought about this? Right. So this is how value. So that's how I would network. So but I'm also strategic about networking. Don't forget, I'm strategic in life, full stop, right? Everything is strategy, but not in the way of that it is transactional. I always think in terms of strategy. My husband always says strategizers. If you want strategy, you come to me because I strategize and that's how I operate. So I might use the word strategy, but in the nicest possible way. Like, hey, what? I would love to learn this about you, and how are you going to do? And then there is like networking for you to expand, right? You want to convert it, you want an opportunity and you want it to be converted into a job role. So just being in those groups, speaking out, and just generally people might approach you and say, oh, actually, what? I've spoken to you. You might be the best person for this role. Would you like to, and do you want me to put in touch? And then thing happens and then you get connected. So network multiplier is a thing, honestly, because I'm part of like various networks. And it's interesting how these networks actually multiply, and then you're like, oh, I know someone from this network and I know someone from this network, and yeah, you need this and you can go and get this from this person and I can introduce you. So it's a crazy thing, but I think for me, in the most human, if I were to break it down, it's about connection as human. So if you have a strategy like why you want to network, and then go and network. But I would always like, for me, it's been curiosity and just, you never know. I'll give you an example of how, I wouldn't say networking, but I knew an IT manager, right? An IT person who needed some help in Cisco firewalls. And I helped him with those firewalls as a technical person. Few years down the line, he becomes the manager, the IT manager, and we need something done. And my team has spent 2 weeks trying to get something done. And we were not able to move that needle because they have something like had important stuff to do. Oh, and I went and then had a conversation. He's like, hey, you actually explaining why this needed to be done urgently and how it'll move the needle for us as well. And then we will be able to get things done. And it was instantly done. And so one of my team members, my team lead, she said, how did this happen? I've been at it for like 2 weeks and I couldn't get this done. How did you just do it that way? And this is what I mean. I didn't consciously network with him. I literally said he needed help and I gave him that help, and it pays in kind. And then I know that because I'm able to like remove blockers and obstacles for my team, that helps with my career growth as well. So I'm just giving an example of how sometimes you don't have to always be, oh my God, I want to grow my career and hence I'm going to do. Like, go reach out to everyone and understand about the organization, understand about like if you have portfolio, you have UX, whatever, right? Like just go ask curiously, like understand about them. And then because they'll remember you, and when they have to decide on someone, will actually say, hey, actually I know this lady, yeah, who can actually be a great fit here. And that's how chances happen.
Rajani, do you think after COVID, how people are do networking remotely? Do you think is it like kind of common thing these days?
Yes and a no. There is hybrid, right? Like, I know that over COVID, we actually didn't go back to work. But let me tell you the flip side of what it did to my child. My child was prime 2 years, which was the time for her social interaction. But with COVID, her social interaction was not as much. And the first time after they removed the ban of COVID, I took my daughter to the playground and she looked at humans like they were aliens, and she came back running. And then I realized the importance of like these social interactions. So I do agree that we do need the flexibility, but at the same time we also need to network with people. So I sometimes it's in person, but sometimes it's even online. Like with technology, I think there's nothing impossible. Like here we are sitting, I don't know where you are, Ellie. Irina is in London, I'm in Cambridge. We are having this conversation. So it makes it possible for anyone to like meet people. You just need to reach out and say, hey, can I actually have a quick chat with you? I wanted to talk about this. And most of the time, except for people who are really ridiculously busy, will always say yes, because they love to chat as well, and they'd like to understand as well. So I would say, just because we do hybrid, it doesn't mean, or working from home, it's still possible through online. And like I said, when you go to conferences or you're part of some event, yeah, just go reach out, meet people.
Yeah, just don't be shy.
I want to add to this that as software engineers, we have a bit more errors. So we have a bit more even opportunities, because sometimes there are super small needs to be fixed, like documentation, README files, and some typos in API. And we can spot, especially the question was a bit like how to do this when you join new organization, right? So you can look like what is missed in very small parts, and you can start to contribute even these small parts. However, people would be so grateful that finally someone came and fixed these needs. Like, I don't know, do some small refactoring, again, change like documentations and fix typos. Sometimes it's really needed to be done, just no one had their hands on it. And here, as software engineer, you have an opportunity to network like this, because you can say like, oh, I can do this for you. Why not? I can spend a little bit more time of my time for this. And you start to dig deeper, like, oh, why exactly this typo appeared? What business mean of this field, etc. And you help someone to get the job get done, but you also learned a bit more about the man, but you also gain the opportunity to network with the person. So that could be your small needs. That could be a strategy. One most that you can bring here, like come to a new job, look inside the organization, what small things you can fix in the first months, like what small, super small commits you can contribute. Still, you contribute, and you will meet people who work on it, even through pull request review. You can, especially if you go to office, you can even go to them and ask like, okay, can we review it together? Or I highly recommend to review online with actually meetings, like, hey, can we do a call and we can have a look on these pull requests? That's also opportunity for us to contribute and to network even without having. And as a strategy, like you're looking at pull requests around, and you can just write messages to people like, oh, I spotted that you use this library. Why do you think it's cool to use it? Or like, why it looks so weird? Is it some limitation of this library, etc.? You ask this question and you get into conversation. Something that as software engineer, we have one more like, yeah.
Absolutely. I can tell an example of one of the mentees I have. And she joined a very junior role, but she very courageously, she wanted to change her position and go into product. And she like networked just out of curiosity, went and chat with the product team, the team members, and like various levels of leadership. Expressed, sometimes it's about having the courage to express that, hey, I'm interested in it, and being very curious. And now she's getting the opportunity to work in product, which is so cool. And all of that, she could just do it. She didn't have to apply for another job. She didn't have to like prepare for it. But she is going in there because she had the right, went in and built the right networks and asked the right networks for the opportunity. So doors open when you speak as well.
Yeah, I love that example. That's so true. So the next one is about role models. I think that's the key, having someone to look up to and to know they have been successful. What are your thoughts on this?
I thought that we need to bring them as many as possible in our world, not only in the industry, in the whole world, because right now we have so little of them. And when I joined software engineering as a junior engineer, even when person looks at me, you really can code. That was on my first ever job. You really know how to do it. They look, but you're a girl. Something like this, which was like, wow, where I came. And next my roles, I felt very lonely, to be honest. I felt like there are 30 engineers and you are the only one who is a girl. I was young and I was like, okay, I'm the only one in the room. And I like but why no one is here? Like, maybe it's wrong, something wrong with me. Maybe it's not for women at all, because I didn't have any role models. And I was thinking why it's happening, maybe. And especially when you debug something at night, when you really, upset because something broken in production, you start to think, oh, maybe it's the case. Like, maybe it's too stressful. Maybe it's not just something like this. I've started to look at role models at this point. I found Trisha G, who is a software developer advocate, and she's our champion. And I was like, okay, there is one person. Now I know one person, something like this. And she actually had 2 kids as well. And now she published a book. And the more I think about it, I think like, okay, definitely we just need examples. We just need women to go to conference. And when I come to conference, it was the same. Like it's so non-inclusive for me. It was really hard. But I think we need to work on it because again, like when I was 10 years ago, it was really hard for me even to find someone. And I remember even the post that Trisha posted, there was dog, and in the middle there was cat in a costume of dog. And I was thinking, okay, that's really how it looks like right now. That's how she imagines reality. So we need to work. That's my point. And when we started community, we started to find more and more amazing women who work and who hold high position. That's how I met them. And that's how I find out that we just need to work in this direction. So that's how we can bring them. Because when you see that women can do this, being a mother, care about family, but also have amazing career, it means like, okay, that's possible.
I think being a mom and being a successful leader or successful woman in tech is also a role model for other women, so they can look up to you and they see, oh, she's a mom and also she's a successful leader. So the next one, we are talking about the inclusive environments. So it's hard to enter the workforce, but especially if something is not right or doesn't feel comfortable. Having a mentor for this kind of guidance can be crucial. Rajani, what are your thoughts on this?
So inclusive environment is very, very important. So I harp about psychological safety of the teams, right? There are various rungs of psychological safety. So when I'm part of a team or when I'm building a team, I look at where exactly, or I've just joined an organization, I look at where exactly I am in this layer of psychological safety. Can people be themselves, right? Like identity. Can I be an Asian woman and thrive? And this is where I think I mentioned about, like, I'm actually cloaked. Do I have to cloak? Can I be myself? So that's the first thing. Am I able to contribute? Is my voice being heard? So there are various levels. And I think the biggest one that actually leads to innovation and a healthy culture in an organization is where you are able to like challenge people and have a very healthy conflict, right? Like, hey, having that room for people. And when I say, I'm not only talking about women, I'm talking about different race. It could be Latina women, it could be disability. So the whole spectrum, I'm looking at the whole spectrum. So when you look at the whole spectrum, how can you bring in psychological safety? And all of this, like linking up to the role model aspect of it, comes from role modeling, right? So if the leaders at the top actually role model that all the way, when they role model, the next rung role models, the next one role models, and then it brings the whole culture of the organization beautifully in a way where you feel like everyone can thrive, the voice is being heard. And I like agile, a concept of agile, of disagree and commit as well, where when you are having conversations, you can disagree and then commit. Like, okay, we've disagreed on things, but we're committing to this and we're going to head this way. And I think if you're able to do more disagree and commit, when I say more, in the most healthy way, I think you found your organization and culture. And when it comes for women, I think some work needs to be done even internally, because sometimes you could, if you're looking in the lens of like a pink lens, then you see everything pink. So it's also sometimes for us to take that lens out. And like I say, micro-feminism, as I would say, if someone says, oh, I experience, and I've also experienced quite a few of those, like, oh, I thought you were sales when I architected the whole system, when you're having a conversation. So it's about putting that right. And also when you observe someone not getting a chance and getting interrupted in meetings, then actually bring back and give them that space so they can talk. So there's so many small actions you can do as a leader and as someone who works in tech to bring about this shift.
Exactly. Irina, do you have any thoughts on the inclusive environments?
Yeah, I think it's important, again, to keep in mind that some people can take time off for some issues. For example, my colleagues, not women, going to get their daughters from school, and I'm so happy to see their messages, oh, I'm off right now because school has been back. For me, it brings safety that everyone in team ready that something may happen. So we should build inclusive environment where people do not work in silos and people exchange their work with each other because they need to cover each other if something has happened. It's really different mindset to work in startup where you own the whole flow, and if you out, production fail, like no one can fix it apart of you, and you will be called at 3 a.m. And that's something that would be hard to manage if you have family, for example, right? I wouldn't say that it's not something we should do, maybe because we have different stages in our life. In the early stage, when we're young, we can work a lot, we can afford ourselves to go to startup and work to own almost everything to gain this experience. However, if we think about a more inclusive environment, we should think how we build teams who can cover each other, right?
100% agree. Thanks so much. So now we are going to the last point of having a mentor, which is encouraging leadership aspirations. We mentioned this earlier. Women with sponsors are 27% more likely to be promoted in executive roles. And a report from Deloitte found that women supported by both mentors and sponsors were twice as likely to stay in their companies and pursue leadership roles than those without that support. So the numbers suggest it makes a real difference, don't they? What are your thoughts on this?
So for me, I think on that topic, there's three big ones that I see, right? Like first thing, the confidence gap. We all know this, and this is research as well, that we wait until we feel 100% ready. And I think even if it's like you want to seek mentorship, sponsorship, applying for the roles, promotion, whatever it is, we always wait for that 100%. The issue, I think, is many mentorship opportunities happen through informal networks, and that women are not always part of, like when someone's smoking and when there's coffee, the pub, where most often we're bogged down with raising children. So that's also a common obstacle that I see. And the third one is the only woman syndrome that I say, like when you are the only woman, especially in senior roles, right? You become everybody's mentor, and it can be overwhelming because everyone wants to reach out to you and mentoring them. There are times where I actually protect my space and my time and my availability, because otherwise it can become quite overwhelming when you're trying to support. So I think these are some of the obstacles that we face, and we, like in various bits that we spoke about, we will have to bring in a shift where this is no longer the case. And I can actually positively and confidently say that the shift is happening, because I know a lot of incredible senior leaders. I mentor senior leaders, and I have a lot of senior leader friends, and amazing to see them.
Yeah, I can add to this that I believe these numbers from my experience as mentor, because one my mentee, when we met, she said, okay, I'm so lost. I think I have to change job. I think I have to left my company, because she was so confident and she was thinking about syndrome imposter, etc. However, she's still in her company. It's already 2 years, which we say they retained in the roles. And she grew up a lot by staying with the same company, continue to learn from different teams, continue to learn technologies inside. And I see that, I look at her and I see how she changed in 2 years, which wouldn't happen if she just decided, okay, I'm not suitable for this role, for this company, I need to go. And she would start everything from scratch in another company. Whereas the issue of being so confident and didn't have this feel inside that she has right to raise her voice, it could be the same case. So that's, I see internally, like internally by being a mentor.
Thank you to both of you for your insights. Now I want to jump into the next subject, where we want to talk a little bit about the mentoring in the form of community. So you both were involved with the group of Women Who Code and now Women Coding Community. Let's talk about that a little bit more, and I want you to tell us about it a bit and tell me what was that community, why do you think it was not successful, and why did the community close down?
I take that question. So Women Who Code, I wouldn't say it wasn't successful. It was a very successful community, thrived a lot. And when, let me start by actually take one step back and talk about how I ended up in Women Who Code. So when my daughter was doing football, she came running when she was 4 years old. She came running to me and said, Mama, I'm the only girl in the football class. Have you noticed? And that's when I said, oh shit. Like, this is like repeat. And that's when I decided for my girls and other girls like her that I'm going to shift. And I started volunteering at Women Who Code, and then became the director of Women Who Code. And I think it's a huge organization and brought a lot of good things for the community of women, right? So undoubtedly, I wouldn't call it that it was not successful. I would say it was very, very successful. It was empowering women, it was supporting women, and it was a great community to be part of. But also running a community like that, you've got to fund, because you need to have people who actually can provide you quality stuff, right? So, which means when in the event that funding dries up and like your long-term backer backs out, then you have to think about what could you do, right? So you have to shut it down because you can't run it at the same scale and you can't do it at the same way. So that's where it shut down. And like I said previously, when that shut down, our community wanted us to like start again. So we started Women Coding Community with Irina and a couple other founders. Irina, over to you.
I joined Women Who Code 4 years ago as a volunteer, and it was London branch. They were recruiting a lot of volunteers all over the world, and they grew up almost 400,000 members all over the world. But it was non-profitable organization. However, they brought a lot of operational costs for this. They ran digital conferences and they ran a lot of digital programs, which will require people to work full time to build these programs, right? And that was the killer thing. They had so many employees, they had to raise very huge funds for next years. And it's not because, well, we faced crisis this year. We had a lot of layoffs all over the world in big tech companies as well. And that's crisis community like this because they had to operate on huge scale. They had to pay salaries to all these people, without getting back anything paid from members. It was absolutely free programs for everyone. So this business model didn't survive, but I would say any non-profit model like this wouldn't survive through crisis. So Women Coding Community we're building right now entirely on volunteering basis. We don't have people who work for full time for this community. We have people like me and Rajani who spend their evenings and their weekends to build these programs. And we built this model and we see that this model can survive and continue to thrive. We have more than 2,000 members, even it's not yet 2 years for this community.
Yeah. And also, I think in some ways, it was really good for us to start Women Coding Community because as far as being part of a big organization with 400, bringing programs and understanding what, like, you knew that this could actually, like, bring value to the women, but we couldn't roll it out quicker, as you right, like big organization means it's slow as well. So in that sense, when we started Women Coding Community, we absolutely had the finger on the pulse because we were part of it and we knew what the community wanted, and we started mentorship. It is quite consuming for us to run these programs, but absolutely it is transformational. And this is why we're having this conversation about mentorship, right? Like every evenings, there are days where I have like 3 mentoring back to back, and there are days where I'm like, yeah, okay, I have to cut back, so I can't do that. So it's nice because for me, a part of my mission in life is also to transform how women feel in tech. Because for me, it's not about getting a job promotion. It's not the next door. For me, women have to be leading, have to be innovating in tech, have to be the ones who actually like create the check. I want them to be founders, to be recruiting others, and I want to think big, and that's what I see. So we can look at some of the leadership tracks to see how we can build women to actually start leading these programs at women coding community. So we also have like a group of leaders who literally lead various tracks successfully, and they are hence building their leadership skills. So I think it's a beautiful way. It is very difficult because it's a volunteering run, and life always happens, right, to everybody. So it's about just being flexible and managing this and bringing more things, being very, very creative. And one of the, like, we're very proud to have engineers from the FANG companies, it's not FANG anymore, MANG, to come and actually run some of the system design or the lead code and so on and so forth, which is absolutely great. Like I said, sometimes I don't believe in getting into the competency trap where we think, oh, absolutely, I need this technical skill to actually thrive. But most often, it's not the technical gap that's blocking you from thriving. It's actually the rest of the stuff, your leadership skills. What do you see about yourself? Whether you believe in yourself, are you able to see beyond? For example, are you operating at the next level? What can you do to operate next level? Asking the right questions and looking at more than like my contribution, which is, oh, these lines of code or this feature or that. It's about like, how did my contribution have an impact on teams, on organization, or anybody else, right? So you look at it from that perspective, and that's where we need to change. For me, this is where the transformation will happen, and it's happening. And once we are there, then we will be in places and in seats where we can create to be able to lead technology and innovation.
Yeah, I absolutely love what you both are doing in the women coding community. I am a member of this community. So based on your experiences, do you think what can companies do differently or better to support and sustain women in tech communities?
I would add one small thing, paternity leave for everyone, not only for women. Paternity leave. One small thing that can shift tremendously everything around. That's if we make it cultural, if you make it as everyone do this, everyone get opportunity to take care about their kids. That small thing I would add. No, maybe not small, but one thing I would up at this.
So paternity leave, I think legally in this country, you are allowed 2 weeks of paternity leave, and an organization gives you 2 weeks of paternity leave. But maybe there are organizations who don't implement that, and I think 2 weeks is too less. Agreed with you. But there's also like this whole shared parental leave where men can take some of the share the maternity leave with fathers.
So like reasonable paternity leave, like at least 4 months.
Do you think, but is there a way that companies can come, for example, and support a women coding community better, or like help you to grow and towards your goals, or like could companies do better for women who code to stop it and to shut down?
I think every organization don't intentionally start, at least in my experience, they don't start off by, I don't want to do this. They do the best they can. And I'm talking about my organization. We have women ambassadors. We have women at Aviva, and we do a lot in this area. We have subscriptions with software, a women engineer, and women can actually travel to countries to be part of these conferences where you can learn. And regularly we bring stuff in where we have a speaking about imposter syndrome or anything else or menopause and things like that, which is quite nice. So I think inherently organizations do this, but I would say some training on biases, some training on how, like, a manager might not even realize that they have this bias because they've never known some sort of like bias education about how women feel, because you can't even blame them because this is all they know. So a little more education about managers and all the leaders about how do women feel, and how does it feel to be the only one, and how does it feel to be someone who's come from a society and a background and a culture where we have to be polite and we have to bend over backwards for everyone, right? Like we are holding the fort everywhere, literally, right? Like be it home, be it everywhere. So I think some sort of education and training managers and all the leaders about like the psychological safety that I spoke about. So if they are more aware, and all of us actually say how we feel as well, rather than being quiet about it, I think that could shift. And I spoke about a little about the micro feminism, isn't it? So when someone's being interrupted, or when if you want to highlight someone, spotlight someone in your organization, give them the opportunity as females. Nominate female colleagues for like high visibility projects, right? Because you're a leader and you can do that. And your actions will not cost anything, but will also help others. There's I can go more into details, but I want to just stick to this topic, where I think we like organizations are doing, but I think at the end of it, organization is because of these leaders. And if we shift the psychological, our organizations psychologically safe, it'll also shift. And this is like, it's not an overnight transformation, right? So it's about them understanding, managers understanding what does it feel to be a woman, having given birth to children, and managing that and managing everything else. So it's just, I think, a little bit of education, having them step in your shoes to understand.
That's a reason that some of the companies sometimes hesitate to sponsor these communities.
So I think they don't want to sponsor. They usually have something in house. And if they want to sponsor, like if you're going for a startup, they're already having very tight revenue, right? So they are trying to build their products and give it back to their employees in some way or the other. Now you talk about large organizations, and we spoke about layoffs being happening, and this is why Women Who Code also had to shut down. So sometimes it's beyond the organization, it's also the economy, and not to mention what's going on in America, so on and so forth. And American companies in here who have branches, they have to protect themselves as well, because otherwise you can't go against like giants. You have to sometimes just see what's good. As women coding community and Women Who Code as well, we worked with various organizations like Amazon, etc., to basically organize events in their premises. So it's cost effective, doesn't cost them much. So we don't ask for like huge grants, but it's also see what's feasible with that organization. And I think within our company, there's so many conference tickets we get for free, which our community is very, very grateful for. So we get a lot of opportunities, but given the economy and given what's changing, it's sometimes you have to understand it from their perspective as well, right? Like as a business and as an organization.
Yeah, I wanted to say about having in-person events organized, but I love to bring like baby steps that could be done with every single company, like having something like lunch and learn about digital communities, about communities like us. It already could be one step forward, like yearly, everyone can learn that this community exists. That's something that they can add in their agenda. It will be absolutely zero cost even. Yeah, if you say like what they can do a little bit more, something like this, it will be helpful, yeah. And then as more they learn about it and more like everyone learn about it, then we can shift focus like, okay, how we can sponsor even more. And of course, we need also thriving point where someone actually have this opportunity. Just to say my few last words, thanks a lot for giving an opportunity. I hope that audience could learn a lot from this as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Irina.
Thank you. Thank you. So my next question is like, do you think what are some common obstacles women face when they are seeking for mentorship and sponsorship in tech?
So I think, like I said, right before, sometimes we think we need to be 100% ready. We need to be there before we can go and seek that mentorship, that opportunity. And also, I think sometimes getting mentorship is through informal networks. So you need to be part of these informal network. In our organization, we have a mentorship program that the organization runs. So that's great, but not organizations do this. So then you have to come to organize a community such as Women Coding Community, where we run mentorship programs and people can get mentorship. So when you do mentorship within the organization, it's very domain specific and so on and so forth. But when you come and when you try mentorship elsewhere, there are other great organizations who do mentorship as well. When you go to those communities, you get like a third person perspective, and you will actually just not develop in that particular domain, but could develop other aspects such as your leadership, public speaking, writing, whatever that could be, right? And also, I mentioned about the only women syndrome, where because you're the only woman and you want to have this mentorship in senior roles, we somewhat hesitate. We wonder if a man who is a mentor can actually understand our perspective. So we tend to gravitate towards like finding women in senior roles, and there's a little bit of exhaustion there because we think they have walked our path and they would know better how to go to that path, because our path is looks slightly different from the path that the man has walked. So I think these are the obstacles from my point of view.
Yeah, I agree. So now let's talk about the more practical things that mentors and mentees can do to further their career's objectives. So Rajani, you have a great article with 15 power moves to conquer the tech world.
Yeah.
And can you give us maybe your top 3, and if listeners are interested, they can read the rest on your LinkedIn page?
Yeah, I think the top 3 for me would be always be, like I've used this word, strategy, but I'm a strategist. So create a very strategic career roadmap, right? Like why you want this, what can you do, and write it down, right? Like for me, I have a vision board and my career roadmap is there. And what is your career plan? And sometimes career is not always like from here to here to here. It's not like a step. You could, but sometimes to gain some product knowledge, to gain some other knowledge, you'll want to shift, learn, and then try. So this is why we say it's a squiggly career, because you want to sometimes build that experience and move up. So for me, right, writing your career plan, it is very important. And also understanding that we face the prove it again burden. I would reverse engineer the promotion and then look at what do I need to do to be in my next role by this time. I love the SMART goals. Then I would always document achievements very strategically. And when I say that, like you can document achievements. I mentioned this when you say, oh, I've done this feature. That's not, you have to see what is the impact of your feature on like the organization, the big picture, right? So, and if you can see that, write it down and write your brag documents, however small. Write the documents, because we as humans have got this negativity bias. So we look at like what are the things I'm not good at and I've gone bad and so on and so forth. But when you actually document your achievements and you come back and say, because you forget as well, right? When you come back and say, oh my God, this is all I've achieved. And then it helps you build your case with your appraisals, and share this with your manager 8 to 12 weeks before appraisals. And then the other I would say is mastering managing up. And this is my favorite in both ways, because one, if you can't see yourself, people always meet you where you are. So if you think you're no good, people will think you're no good. If you think I'm just a senior engineer, I have no leadership, and people always see you there. But if you see yourself as someone, I can do this and I'm ready for this role, then people will actually also see that you're ready for this role. So it is not just the fact that, oh, I'm going to be doing my next role, look at what the next role would be doing. It's actually being living and breathing that, right? So say, for example, if you're a junior engineer and you want to become a senior engineer, when you are faced with the problem, what would a senior engineer do? Or if you are a principal engineer and you're aiming to become a CTO, what would a CTO do? So things like that, like always put yourself at the next level and think about how would you solve it. And then you automatically, you imbibe that. And the more you do it, the more people will also notice that you're operating in the second role. Then it's easy for you to get that role or the promotion. But also you have built evidence, like the way our brain works. If we have built this evidence to say you've been operating in that role as women, we think, oh yeah, I've built enough evidence now. I'm 100% ready for this. Like this is the pitfall. So I think the managing up is the most important aspect, right? But for me.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I was like, when I'm thinking about leveling up, I am doing the same.
I just want to say, always think about how can you help your manager and how can you help the organization. So I think if you expand and you constantly look at, oh, how can I help my boss? How can I help my this thing? your thinking shifts, the way you think also changes. And this is why I say the whole lump of managing up.
Yeah. So you also talk about micro-feminism, which is so simple but seems very effective. Tell us what it is and how it potentially helps in sponsorship for other women.
So micro-feminism is about like small, consistent actions that you will create a massive ripple effect. So say, for example, when I mentor my mentees and they have like 10 years of experience and they still think they cannot be a mentor, I literally help them, talk through them so they can be mentors. And when they actually sign up for mentors, they are mentoring someone else. So this is just an example of how like the ripple effect is possible. So if you can amplify other women's ideas in meetings, like I said, and then if someone is being interrupted, then you give them, oh, let's hear what she has to say. If someone's idea has been, the credibility is lost, then you say, actually, building on her idea, blah, blah, blah. So you give that visibility and you give them opportunities and you spotlight they deserve. So I go and the women in my network, I actually recognize the women in my network as well. So there's that visibility and actually introduce them. So I know someone, then I introduce someone to the power network so they have access to the senior leaders as well. And what I like about this for microfeminism is that these actions actually cost nothing but actually compound over time. So when you are consistent, then you can get these sponsorship and you build a reputation with, and actually it'll help someone develop their talent, which then attracts more opportunities to you as well, and likewise. So it starts with tiny actions. That's what I'm saying. Tiny actions, role modeling, speaking up. And so you think you need to speak up. Someone has said something that is not nice, then you speak up and let them know. So I think microfeminism and sponsorship could, in that way, they're connected.
Thank you. So I think we are going to have our last question. So have there been any challenges you have found when mentoring and how have you overcome it?
I think my biggest challenge is that sometimes people join mentorship as a way of getting validation. And there's nothing wrong about that. But it's about like shifting some of these inherent behavior, which behavior you can't change overnight. So I think understanding why they're making those statements and seeing beyond those statements and bringing that in and transforming a person holistically, I think is the biggest challenge. And I'm not saying it's a bad challenge to have. For me, it's like the best challenge to have. I love how humans interact, how we make these big excuses, including myself. Right? We give excuses and we weave a story that suits our narrative. But if we strip all of that back, I like seeing bare bone. What is the real? Is it because we are scared and we don't want to go outside our comfort zone? So, and then like try and shift that conversation about taking that little itty bitty step to go outside your comfort zone. And I think that's the amazing thing. Then once you start doing that, you start building confidence and then you believe in yourself and then it snowballs and snowballs. And in months, in weeks, you are someone amazing. And I think even though it's a challenge, I also think it's like the biggest win for me transforming, because once you've enabled that switch, it's like your dreams have no limit and your ambitions can be as big as they want you to be.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed talking to you and Irina.
All right, so we're coming to the end of the episode. A huge thank you to Irina and Rajani for a fascinating discussion, and again to Ellie for taking the reins while I was unfortunately not feeling very well. So Ellie, what will you take away from that discussion?
I think I learned a lot from both of them. And one of the things it was really interesting for me, it was about the strategy of your mindset, like having a strategy for everything, even if you're your career progression, as well as how much like having mentor can impact your life, as we all know. That's it.
Amazing. It's good that we're getting these real life tips and tricks, and I hope that everyone out there will share their thoughts and their stories and what they're taking away with us. We're on social media. Next time we will be looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion. So do send us any questions that you have and we'll try to answer them and get them into the podcast. Thank you for being with us. Keep the conversation going and see you next time.
Thanks everyone. Take care and thank you for being part of UnlockHerTech. Bye.